Do you want more? More time, more balance, more love, more sex, more money, more real, and less bullshit? This is the Women Wanting More podcast with Dr. Karen Osborne. Real life, real stories, plus real tips to get you more of what you want.
I was trying to think of what am I going to title this podcast? So obviously, as you can see, because you're listening to it, so let's talk about letting comparison go. So yesterday, let's see, today is Thursday. So snow started in Victoria, where I live in BC, on Monday. We rarely get snow. Okay, like seriously, we rarely get snow out here. But we'll get, a snowfall or two. It's not your typical Canadian winter at all in Victoria. It's Vancouver Island where I live. It's this like little hub of our country that's, I don't know, it's almost like we don't get the typical kind of Canadian winters or the colder kind of East Coast-ish winters, right? So, but we did get a huge jump of snow Tuesday night, continuing to Wednesday, like within a short period of time, right? So because we don't really get much snow, there's actually no snowplows here. There's no need. We rarely even goes below 0 Celsius. And right now the snow's all melting and stuff, but we had a snow day yesterday. And so it's tricky. It's tricky when that happens. It is what it is. And you can just kind of, choose to go with it. But I'm a working mom, clearly. And so it's a challenging thing when that comes up. However, it's not what this is about. This is about comparison today. So, it was so much snow that we live on a cul-de-sac that we were almost literally snowed in. Like it was crazy amount of snow. And I'm like, oh, let's get out for a walk. We're going to walk up to Starbucks and get a treat today, yesterday with the boys. And it's blowing and nasty. I know with my 6 and 9 year old, we get out there, they'd be like, I'm cold. And it was just gross. I'm like, we're not going. So we ended up just kind of staying in all day. Boys are on their iPads. I got a little bit of work. We watched a movie, we just kind of rolled with that. But what happened is then when I went to bed, I was posting something on Facebook, and I happened to notice seeing some of the moms that I know at the school that everybody's out tobogganing on some hill that I don't know of. And I watched the pictures and I looked at them and I go, I suck as a mom. Why didn't I get my kids out? Why didn't I do? And I'm doing all this comparison stuff, beating myself up. Yeah, even I can get sucked into that, right? Which the more tip, by the way, is going to be around taking a bit of a social media break at times and not doing the scroll, because social media is lovely and wonderful. Listen, there's so many of you that would only know about the podcast because of social media. I'm thankful for it. I don't think it's right to vilify social media and say it's all bad, because that's just not true. But there's two sides to it, right? And the side that does happen is that we can have these situations. It's not only social media, but I think it shines a bigger light on it. It's kind of like, if there's any piece of you that are kind of feeling, I wonder if I'm doing a good job at this thing, whatever that thing is. And let's face it, if you're a parent, there is this hey, I'm doing a good job today. And then it's oh, I suck on the next day. It just is parenting. There's no instruction manual. There's no trying to figure stuff out. And if you're not a parent yet, I love you, but you just don't get it until you're in it. It's just the way it is, right? And so you do your best and you make decisions you need to, and that's just the way it works as being a parent. But I found myself going to that trap of comparison and just being again, I suck. I should have taken my kids out. Tyson was mad at me yesterday or before going to bed, because I'm okay, we'll get ready for bed, and my beds are down. We have a ritual of doing Harry Potter. We read Harry Potter before. We're on the 5th book now, before going to bed at night, and then we read some first thing in the morning. And I don't want to read Harry Potter, and you're no fun, and even though we did some stuff at the house and that, but I was oh, Tyson's right. I'm not the fun mom. I'm not. And that's just not true, But my ego and fear took me to that place. Comparison just clouded my judgment. And here's the bigger piece, the stuff I'm seeing on social media. Well, these are mothers who are stay-at-home moms. They're not juggling work as well too. And I'm not saying that as a judgment or anything like that. It's a different world. If you're a working mother, if you're a stay-at-home mom, by the way, oh my God, my hats, all of the hats I own, off to you, because I don't think that I could do that. I'm not built for that. And I have this need into me to create and produce and to write and to share and to lead and to teach. And it's a piece of me that needs to be fulfilled. It needs to be expressed. And, but I do understand that means that I don't necessarily have that time and the capability to do all the things. Like I found as I'm thinking of, I'm going to record the podcast in this, as I'm heading back to the car, and I'm actually driving back to school because my eldest son forgot his backpack, as I'm seeing one of the kids, there's a bake sale today for the grade 4 and the grade 5s, which my son's in grade 4, my oldest son. And so we baked up like I baked up about a dozen or so cookies. And that's what they asked of, just to bring at least kind of a dozen cookies. And I was going to do more, and I do really love to bake. It's just tricky with the not doing the nuts, and then we don't do gluten. And so something I baked for the first time yesterday was like a disaster. So we just got the one set of cookies. And I see one of the kids walking into school, and he's got a massive container of all of these things. And I'm like, oh, again, same thing. I suck. I should have done more stuff. I wanted to bake more stuff, and then it was just like it's not the same. Here's the biggest thing about comparison. Comparison is such a mind fuck, because you're comparing yourself to somebody else, and there's no comparison to anybody else. Even if let's say if I knew a mom that had the same, like they an entrepreneur, they do their business from home, they're also kind of there to help with, they're also a mom. But like my good friend Jill is that, she works when the kids are at school. And then otherwise she's got her mom hat on, and she's doing the cooking and taking the kids to all their different lessons and health appointments and all that kind of stuff, right? So, I'm thankful for that. I feel like I have what I need, the best of both worlds, but it's really easy to go to comparison. Especially after like a snow day and being in the house and not kind of being in my most strongest self, right? And we all have those days. But I'm really going to encourage you to just the comparison. And I could feel myself going there. I'm very, very aware of it, right? Where you might be too, where you're just like, oh, and my friend does this, and all the other moms, and blah, blah, blah. And, parenting, I think specifically is one, because, let's face it, for the most part, we're putting all the best stuff. It's almost like, think of like musicians, right? So, I don't know musicians, but I love music, and I've listened to lots of interviews with musicians, and, I can imagine that when an album comes out, right, and those hit songs, well, there's probably a lot of shit songs in there, right? There's probably a lot of stuff when people write where there was a lot of stuff that's just like, it's not good, and you don't see those pieces, right? Remember when albums, depends on your age, but I'm 50, so I can remember when I used to vinyl, man. Vinyl. Before vinyl was like cool as a retro thing. It's like, no, vinyl was a real thing for me in the 70s, early 80s, and CDs didn't come into like late 80s kind of thing. Even then it was cassette tapes, but you remember there'd be like B-sides to the albums, to like a single, be like a hit single, 45, 78 to the big ones, by the way, for those who don't know, but 78 to the big ones, the smaller ones were the 45s, which had the little thing in the middle you had to put on so it would play on the turntable. And there would be a B-side, and the B-side would be like the hit songs on the one side, and the B-side's kind of like the one that didn't make the album. It's almost like a bonus song, right? And so, the moments that we put up on social media when it comes to parenting, it's all the A-game stuff, right? Now, yes, there are some, and I definitely have, been a piece of this too, of like, I do share at times the tough stuff. This is my first podcast, by the way. Mom at 41 was sharing those pieces of motherhood being like imperfect. And, but for the most part, that's not really what's shared. And so then we're sharing, what is our difficult times with people's A games. And on top of that, we're not even, it's a moot point because we're not that person and they're not us. So comparison is, toxic at any level. For sure, parenting is I'd say it's a tougher thing when it comes to parenting, and it's, we have a lot of doubts and insecurities and all that kind of stuff when it comes to that. But, I'm just going to really encourage today to stop. the comparison. Like, it just needs to go. And you're going to notice yourself going there. You're going to notice yourself kind of doing maybe an experience what I did. And then it's just recognizing this. So here's your more tip for today with this, and okay? I want you to, for 24 hours, you can either just have a social media fast, so don't go on any social media, or you can just decide if you're going to go on to post something that you're just going on to do that and then you're out. So to really stop yourself, be disciplined about not scrolling. Okay, so however you can make that happen, but whether that is you're going to go on and just, so for me, with my business, I post up episodes, I blog, I post stuff in the More Club, which I'm going to talk about in a moment. I, post things on Instagram, like it's part of my business to show those pieces, right? And it's part of communication, it's part of teaching, it's all those things for me. And so even if that's not what that is for you, you can still just go, I feel compelled, I want to post something, I want to share something, then do that, and then get the heck out of Dodge. Do not scroll. So think of, like a circle, like a parking sign that has like no parking, like a little circle with scrolling in the middle, like a red circle on a white background. Scrolling's in the middle, and then there's the line over it. You feel me? No scrolling for 24 hours, or just don't go on social media at all. Okay, now, does comparison happen other places? Yeah, but I think in today's world, this is one of the biggest pieces. This is one of the downfalls of social media, is when we choose to do that with it, because it's still our choice, right? And if it means that, again, you don't feel as disciplined to go like, oh, I feel like it's, because it's easy. I do it too. I'm like, suddenly I'm scrolling. I'm like, what am I doing? I don't want to do this right now. Like, I have things to do. I don't want to go to that, like, it doesn't serve me to sit there and scroll in whatever feed I happen to be in. And so if that's you have a hard time with that, then just don't go on social media for 24 hours. Like, you'll be okay. It's funny when I talk to people sometimes about how I don't watch the news or read papers or just follow any of that kind of stuff. They're like, well, you got to know what's going on in the world. I'm like, no, I actually don't. I don't. Like, I'm going to find out about it anyways, right? So I think we use social media that way too. I got to find out what's going on with stuff and going on with my friends or going on in the world. You'll be okay for 24 hours. You'll be fine. Okay, so choose one. Pick a lane. So either you social media fast for 24 hours is your more tip, or when you go into the next 24 hours, do not scroll. Okay? And I think the third piece of this is just recognize and acknowledge and give yourself grace and just know that you're doing your absolute best. Everybody does every single day. And that's it. And that's it. You do your best, and there's no comparison needed with that. And just gentler, kinder on yourself. Listen, I know because I've been there, and I can still be there clearly because I just shared the story with you, but there's been years and decades of beating yourself up. And maybe it doesn't need to be that way anymore. I used to think that I had to be hard on myself because people would tell me you're so hard on yourself. And I was like, I don't know what you're talking about, but I would. I'm like, well, if I don't push myself, then who will? Like, how do I grow otherwise? Yes, and there's a fine line now where now you're pushing yourself maybe physically in the gym or emotionally with something or mentally you're learning something or producing something. And then there's a tipping point where now it goes into a point of you're beating yourself up. So just enough of that. Enough of that. This is the work of learning how to love yourself. This is the work of trusting, things that unfold and dropping some of that subconscious program that we're all so desperately trying to heal and are able to. But it starts with just stopping the comparison, sister. So, listen, I mentioned about the More Club. Have you heard about it yet, by the way? So this is I created this at just the beginning of January. So it's brand new. Of so many of you that came to me and said, Karen, I love the podcast. Like, but I don't have the financial means to go to one of your retreat or live event experiences. I don't have the time. I've got, a bunch of kids, or I'm busy with work, or I can't get there as easily, or, I'd like to have more support, more tools. And I've created some in the past. Some of you might have gotten one of my Women Want to More journals. I had they're both still there actually, the More Mindset System online courses, the More Journaling System. But I wanted to have something that was more than that and was within a a price range, an investment range that was like ridiculously inexpensive. Okay, so this is what the More Club is. This is like an after party where you have more of the tools, the support, the resources that continue on from the podcast. Okay, so the after party to the Women Wanting More podcast and Women Wanting More movement is the More Club. Okay, so what you get in there are bonus podcast episodes, which this is really cool. You actually get the chance to vote on them. Okay, so it's like creating your own personal podcast. Like I did one yesterday that I just put up in the More Club, which is on how to create boundaries in 5 steps. Like specific tactical, this is what the women were saying is we need to understand boundaries, but I'm like, okay, cool. So I'm going to create a podcast on that. Okay, so you get to vote in. This is very different than what you get here in this podcast. There are also different levels within the More Club that allow you to be able to get with your benefits a interview with a powerful female leader, which I actually did one with my very dear friend Jill Ethier just last week. There is a mindset skill to video training that comes up once a month within the More Club. There are shout outs on the podcast. There are reading lists. I mean, it just kind of goes on all the different resources and tools. So when you go in, to access the More Club, you need to go to patreon.com/Women Wanting More. I know it's a bit of a mouthful. Patreon, patreon.com/Women Wanting More. Okay, so easy peasy. Patreon, patreon.com/Women Wanting More. And you get to choose. And so here's all it is, the investment. It's $2 a month, $5 a month, or $10 a month. That's it. That's it. Okay, so I am excited to help this vision to grow because the more that we, understand these tools and have the support and have the resources to heal through stuff like comparison, by the way, and we become better and we become more loving, well, it creates this ripple effect of producing more love in the world. That is the big mission and the purpose of this entire Women Wanting More movement. And I would love for you to be a part of it beyond the podcast. So go to patreon.com/Women Wanting More, and you can choose one of the 3 tiers, which are called, after 3 famous women, the Brene, the Ellen, or the Oprah, depending on what you want. And you can always tier up or tier down. And so, yeah, pumped to see you inside the More Club. So go join the More Club today. So I will talk the next episode, sister. A life of more really is one step away from you stopping the comparison and accepting and loving yourself exactly as you are, doing your best every single day. I love and appreciate you.
To get the show notes of each Women Wanting More episode, including the How to Get More tip, subscribe to the newsletter at drkarenosburn.com/newsletter.